Welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky. The show will begin momentarily.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky, the Dragonchain update show. This is episode 115, 0xf5. It's the 246th consecutive weekly episode with an AMA. Reminder, nothing on the show is financial advice. And stay tuned after the updates for a quick AMA. This week on Dragonchain updates, we have Super Happy Dragon Lucky. This shows distribution of governance lot NFTs. Last week's episode created 1,206 lot. There were 2 questions for 301 lot each. There were no featured posts. The host received 301 lot and Dragonchain received 302 lot. So we'll go to Den.Social updates. April 2024 layer creation process, LCP results are in. The winners, let's see here, I think I have it here. The winners are number 1 by lore committed was Pakistan with 2.1 million unique voters. Yes, and no, I don't know. The unique voters is wrong here, but there are 2.1 million lore committed, and it was nominated by Aladita. And the number 1 by unique voters with 30 was biohacking, which should be interesting as well, which had 442,000 approximate lore committed, nominated in April of 2021 by Evan. Is Evan the Evan that is no longer with Den? I can't remember. I'm not sure. As a reminder, any denizen can purchase a runner-up layer or essentially sponsor its creation. It may be the better way to say it. The first through the 5th runner-ups, as ranked by unique voters, can be created. The first runner-up would only require 200 matter, the second 400, the third 600, the fourth 800, and the fifth 1,000. And if a layer, if any layer proposal has at least 8 unique voters, it can also be sponsored for creation for 2,500 matter. So we've done that in the past. If there's something you want to see created that is on that list, reach out, let us know. I think that you just need to respond to the LCP, to this announcement right here, and say, hey, I want to sponsor this. And I believe that you just need to tip the post the amount and just say that you did, and it'll happen. For next to DAO updates, there is a new format, and essentially you can post questions, topics inline, and you can request a meeting if there is something that you would like to discuss, things like that. So go ahead and join up there and figure that out. Next, we go to World Blockchain Roundtable updates. Last week's episode was and I think this is the wrong one. I'm just going to take that off. I don't know. Last week's episode was, can blockchain create a new internet? Make sure you go watch and share it. The more views it gets the first week, the more all the participants will get. And let's see here. This week's, I think these aren't updated. This week's episode 152 is, how do we get grandma to start using blockchain? So, okay, yeah, it is the grandma episode, and essentially it's about usability. How can we get normal people who are not technophiles, technology people, to use a blockchain, and in what ways could that be improved? Should be a really good discussion. There's a lot there that we've learned in the past 6 years, I guess 10 years even. There's a lot. So go pay attention to that. And I at least am very interested in seeing what everybody has to say on that. Also, let's a quick DRAKARIA update. Thanks for watching and sharing the updates. The gateway keys are coming soon. I know we talked on the team, trying to time stuff so that we don't start too early. We still have a decent amount of things to do to finalize it, and I guess even decide a couple of things on, accepting dollars, accepting other forms of crypto we've talked about here and elsewhere. Dollar coins, actual dollars with credit cards, Ethereum. Do we accept dragons? Do we accept other cryptocurrencies? There's a lot there to be done, and we will keep you up to date. Also, do watch, because I do think that the gateway keys might start coming out soon, and those are all going to be based on understanding the white paper, the actual fundamental technology. And you don't have to be a developer, you don't have to be a coder, or someone who understands it to its depths. It's more if you can understand at a higher level, and what certain terms mean inside there, and how the system works in some ways. Those will be the things that will be necessary. And I'm sure there'll be a few different ways that the giveaways are going to work. So pay attention for that. Make sure you follow DRAKARIA World on X for that. And while I refresh the AMA questions, let's see here. Let me get those up here, and refresh it. Make sure you follow us if you aren't already. Make sure you like this video, share it if you can, if you will, and all good things will happen. Let's see here. So for the AMA, the first question is from Oxans. Shouldn't the LCP layer be reset? LCP, the layer creation process proposal list. Many were proposed years ago by people who don't currently use DEN. I think it's a major problem, since having old votes causes them to win, but there's no continuity of the layer. Most of those layers are dead. So I don't think it's a bad idea. Totally. If you have any DINDAO votes, you could make that suggestion. Let's see here. I think, yeah, I am. The great question for the DINDAO. So maybe bring it up in the DINDAO post. If nothing else, maybe a new sort option on the layer list that sorts activity, or maybe a visual line on the page where those layers without activity more than 30 days are listed in alphabetical order. That's for the layer list itself. I think for the LCP list, I mean, we could make stuff fall off after a certain period of time. If anyone with DINDAO builder's lot would want to pose that question, I would probably vote for it. I don't know what what do you think? 90 days? Do you think 120 days? Do you think something, so it would be very fresh list? but I do get it. If it's something that's 2 years or older, that's maybe those things will just end up over time building up so much consensus that they really might not be as valuable as something that is newer, more topical. So anyway, I'm open to it. I would probably vote for it if it was reasonable suggestion, and I think it wouldn't require code. I think it would just we would have to release any of the committed lore that had been put into those proposals in the past. So that would go back to the people. You'd have to make sure that was stated. And I guess, generally it probably wouldn't be too complex to do. So, and it probably would be worth it. So great idea. Thank you for that. Next, Aladita. Hello, Dragon family. Hope everyone is doing well. There's a crazy picture, a creepy picture. It's very cool though. Question: how Dragonchain's measurable proof system can apply on current money generating systems, that is continuously generating without anything backing it? I want to say our monetary system and money printing licensing systems, and how hard is it to apply Dragonchain technology to all this current infrastructure? How much transparency could it bring to average citizens so that they could see how thieves are robbing citizens, true, and spending their hard-earned tax money on wars and personal gain? Very true. Thoughts? There is so much corruption in the current system as a whole. Maybe this is not big enough. Sorry, I should have made this bigger. Apologies. So much corruption in our current system as a whole, not just monetary, and it's the root of all evil. To control it, I think every dollar should be tracked from minting to the big pockets, and citizens should have right to control or at least see what's happening behind closed doors of our monetary transactions. Just voting every 5 years is not a solution without transparency and accountability. I think these evil people slowing down our time and progress as a human civilization and already ruined many of our generations. Totally agree with you on this. And the funny thing is, I want to show you this. We put this out in 2021 when the CBDC stuff started to happen. And I think obviously the evil side, where they're just wanting to take our current system that is already full of corruption and all types of hidden theft, that there are things that can be done. And I don't know whether it's a central bank or not. I would get rid of all central banks. Don't kill me if I were in charge. But either way, the term being CBDC, there are several things that can be done that would be positive for humanity and liberty and all the good things. And we put this paper out in 2021 to describe it that way as objectively as possible. We go through, you have to have a scalable blockchain architecture. That's why Dragonchain was created. It wouldn't have to be Dragonchain, but that's why it was created. Supply and governance. The fact that, exactly as you say, if it were tracked all the way from mint to use, and by the way, there are some notable innovations that could be brought to bear there. Something that I first envisioned while I was at Disney was I can't remember what I called it, but it was essentially a token which would burn when it was spent, so that you had a much simpler supply economy, because when it's spent, and it was also for, you think at Disney, it was for the parks where someone spending a coin, it wouldn't just end up in someone else's hands to be recirculated, and potential privacy issues and everything else as it's tied to the history. Instead, you would have 1,000 tokens, and you would spend them in the park, and as you spent them, they would be burned, because what's the park's just generating them on the other side. It's kind of like what we're doing right now, where they print the money, it slowly works its way into a real person's hands. And then when they pay the taxes, it's still there. It doesn't burn. You know, why, if they're printing it, why are they collecting taxes? And if they're printing it, why are those taxes used? It doesn't make any sense, right? And the issue is crazy supply. And, you know, they could do this right now if they wanted, but of course they don't. So we put this out, largely was ignored. We sent it in, I think, to one of the, there was some Asian nation that had requested papers. We sent it in, you know, I don't remember if we got any response or not, but you know, they accepted it. It's in their files somewhere. Essentially, I would suggest everyone should read this, and it's, you know, again, it's 2021. So, you know, what, 2.5 years ago, you know, there might be some updates that I would make now, knowing a little more about what they're planning to do and how they're envisioning things. But it's a worthwhile paper to look at, and specifically answers a lot of these questions. And there's a lot more than I could go into here that I won't have time, of course. So, and you are totally correct and right about your appraisal of this. That, you know, something needs to happen, and you know, my thought is it probably, you know, you call it the root of all evil. I do not think that that's an exaggeration. I think if the central bank in the United States was gotten rid of somehow, that you imagine how many people would not die in the future from unnecessary frivolous wars that are only happening because people, mostly senators and or very rich people, just want more money. So, and that's what it's all about. You say senators, I say senators, congressmen, bankers, all of them. They're all in it, and they're all benefiting massively from this. And what are they doing with that money? They're buying precious metals. Some of them might be buying Bitcoin, but largely they're not. Like, largely they are, you know, they're working their deals, manipulating markets, selling paper gold to buy real gold is what they're doing. So, and it's all only possible because of that central bank. Would not otherwise be possible. And if you look at Jefferson versus Hamilton, that's another point. I think it's obviously I guess the assessment is that Jefferson was right, as was Jackson, as was a few others in history. So, great question. Thank you. I'll edit another one. Can you explain why you have chosen a Fibonacci number that is prime 433,494,437 for the total supply of dragons? What was the technical reason behind this decision? Thanks. So this actually even has come up in our case, oddly enough, and I'm not going to get into that side of it, but with the case with the SEC, or the SEC case against liberty and freedom in the United States, that originally, I'm a fan of Fibonacci. I would not be, except for, in fact, it's the same engineer, by the way, that brought the Satoshi white paper to my attention in 2010. Was a big proponent of Fibonacci's for a bunch of different reasons, mostly just interesting, I think. But as it came out, there's something in computing that is usually called an exponential roll off, or I'm going to totally get the term wrong, but one way or another, where, let's say I try to make a connection to a server endpoint and it's not available. You know, I try to connect, I can't connect. If I keep trying to connect and everybody else is also they keep trying to connect, it's going to make it harder for that connection to ever come back online, because maybe too many people are trying to connect right now. So what they do is they usually configure an exponential roll off where I try to connect. If I can't connect, I'll try again in 1 second. If I can't connect, then I will I will roll essentially an exponential time period every time I try. So after a while, I'm not going to be checking for 5 minutes, and then I'm not going to check for 20 minutes, and so on. I found that most of those systems were too harsh. That is, they would too quickly increase that time. And I started toying with, and done this at a few places, including Disney, with what is a Fibonacci roll-off, where you would instead use the Fibonacci scale to series to increase that period, but in a much more natural way that does still get to great numbers, but not as quickly as an exponential roll-off. So that came into play when I first was designing the way that the dragons would work, because given that they are a tokenized micro license, I knew and had seen several cases where people had lost crypto. Right, it's an obvious thing. It's happened in Bitcoin, most notably at the time that before Ethereum, before most of these other thousands of tokens existed, that people will lose their keys, or they everybody knows the story about the guy who had mined thousands of Bitcoin, and they were on his hard drive, and he had accidentally thrown his machine away, and is still to this day roaming that dump to try to find that machine in the hopes that his billions of dollars can be recovered. I don't know if it's billions, but either way, it's a lot of money. And I wanted to attempt a solution to that, and the solution was not implemented, because once we chose Ethereum, and we chose Ethereum for the, you can think about all of the ecosystem that was already there, block explorers, hardware wallets, things that were kind of out of the scope of what we were trying to do at Dragonchain. They did not, we did not have the necessity to build a block explorer or independent hardware wallets, and to try to compete with the quality of the competitive market out there that was already hitting, mostly Ethereum and Bitcoin. In fact, mostly Bitcoin at the time. They had a Keep Key wallet. You had a couple of others that were competing for it. And when we chose Ethereum, the smart contract tech and the standards for tokens were not very advanced, especially at the time. So we totally dropped what I'm about to explain to you from the model. It was originally in there philosophically. Maybe someday it could return. I don't know, but it was essentially called a constant supply model, where your tokens, in this case dragons, would you would necessarily need to stake them, and there would be various ways to stake them that would be, you wouldn't necessarily have to run a server, you wouldn't have to commit them to a smart contract where you lost control. It would still be fully in full custody of the owner. So I didn't want to do anything that would be centralized in that way. But essentially, if you did not come in and stake them or prove that you still had them, and you could sign leases. I don't know what the word would be, but you would sign a message to the system saying, "I hold these." Not saying who you are or anything else, but I have a million dragons, and that could last for 6 months, or could last for a year, depending, and maybe it would cost something the longer it would last. But if you did not do that, so say you just ignored that, or you lost your dragons on a hard drive that is now in the dump, or you threw your phone into the lake that held the keys for your dragons, that in time the dragons would disappear, and ghost dragons would appear. And there was an issue that these ghost dragons, how do they work? Would they still create time? Will they still work as a regular dragon? The assumption is yes. They might have had other unique utility, but the interesting thing about it is that where do those ghost dragons appear? They would appear in the wallets of the people who are staking their real dragons. So essentially, if dragons were lost, they would come back into the world, and potentially they could come back as regular dragons. They wouldn't have to be ghost dragons. They wouldn't have to be separate at all. But the point being that the time, whatever the period of time was, and talked with a few people about a few different periods, that it would all be Fibonacci based. So essentially, if you didn't come in for some reason and stake them for a while, you wouldn't lose too much. You'd lose a few because it would be a Fibonacci scale. But I don't know if it would be every day, every week, every month. But the longer you waited, pretty soon that Fibonacci scale would capture all of the dragons that were not staked, and they would reappear in the economy. So it was a way to say that that the supply would always be this number, and that it was a Fibonacci because it makes sense that the Fibonacci roll off of the unstaked dragons, or the fact that they would be recycled would follow the Fibonacci series. So that's what it came from. It's a long answer, but I've been wanting to talk about that for a while. I think I might have discussed that on a show before, but anyway, it's a super interesting thing. Totally doable now, especially with Dragonchain itself. Maybe we would have done it if I knew what I knew then what I know now. There would be ways to do it, but it was way too complex at the time to introduce, and so we didn't. Right. So, and there, you could introduce this now and start doing it theoretically. You could independently do this theoretically if it made sense. So it's a super interesting thing, and it does happen to make sense with the economy and with the way that and you have to remember, dragons are tokenized micro licenses. They are software licenses, and we have literally hundreds of millions. I think it's over 500 million individual transactions which have used dragons. And I don't know if there's any other blockchain network out there that's even close to that. I'd have to look. I'm sure Bitcoin and Ethereum are relatively close to that, but that's a lot of transactions for anyone, including the government who gave us the patent on that, to be saying that it isn't a utility. So anyway, but it is still yet to be seen if justice exists in the world. I think generally the trending is that it doesn't, but and you can see that everywhere, not just with Dragonchain. So next, I am with a question. Joe, I hope you watched Tucker Carlson's interview of Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram. You did send me that message, and I have not had the chance to watch it yet. I was really busy yesterday, so hopefully I'll get to watch it soon. I had no idea he interviewed him, and I'm a longtime user of Telegram. I do prefer it to Discord, and that would be for the UI alone. So the UI is much better than Discord, and there are a few things I don't like about it, but generally it's very usable and there's a lot of really good features. So question, if Telegram doesn't censor, for example, political content, and now Twitter, through Elon, selectively, he does allow more free speech content, and I would say it is selective, then what is Den's niche among these two tech giants? There are a lot of niches. I mean, I do think that Although, we don't have the number of users, obviously, in Twitter, but we also don't have the number of bots that Twitter does. And how do I say? I mean, it would probably be for the fact that everything's on chain. Neither of those have everything on chain, right? Yeah, if Elon tried to put everything on Dogecoin, things like, I can scale Dogecoin, I don't think it'll do it. I think it would break. I don't think it would make it. And how would it break? If it didn't break on the number of transactions, it would break economically, probably, unless they cooked in something for it to cheat. Who knows? And Telegram, likewise. I think there's so many transactions that have to be on Telegram. I have no idea the number, right? And video content and other binary image content files. I don't even know how much. I've wondered how much storage they use, right? And I would also say another big thing is our consensus protocol. That is the fact that every content piece, every piece of content is run through, has its own very interesting prediction market, and it's based upon scarcity and not money. That scarcity is essentially a measure of your reputation on the system, how much content and or positive evaluation you have contributed to the platform relates directly to how much energy you have at any given moment in time, and that's how much you have to play with, to evaluate, and that prediction market is, in my opinion, is notably powerful. It really works. I wish we had better test data. I wish we had better, we had more people on there to use it. That would be very important, of course. And another would be the direct governance itself. That is, that every single community has a DAO, and you can compare that to Reddit, which would be the closest for communities. Even though it's horribly toxic, and I hate uttering that word. Don't go to Reddit, right? That if you've ever used Reddit, you know that it's largely controlled by the local subreddit admins, and it's particularly how do I say this? It becomes very toxic. Several communities, including some crypto communities, notably, if you read the Roger Ver book, have led to uncharacteristic for those communities censorship, and that would be much harder with a community in Den, particularly one that is built like, say, as DenDAO is, or as some of the like DRAKARIA, for example. It will have a more I don't want to say complex, a more advanced form of direct governance, where there are multiple parties, multiple roles, I guess, that get to weigh in, and that they are encapsulated in ways that no matter how big one role gets, it still has the same power as this other role, right? And those things can then be designed like that on purpose. Nothing exists like that, or even close to that, in Twitter or in Telegram. I mean, Telegram does have some great tools for communities, but the crazy thing is they don't even have the thing they really need is to be able, and Twitter too, for people or brands in particular, to be able to sign messages so you know it's really from them. Right? The fact that it doesn't exist is radically stupid. We don't have that directly in Den because we haven't had time to build it, but it would be there. I don't have billions of dollars budget like they do. Gosh, there's probably a few more things, but I would say generally Den is a really well built system. I hope it takes off at some point, and I know DRAKARIA will host all of it. Already does host all of its governance. Right now it's in a private layer. It will be public at some point. We talked about that as well. So great question. And feature post idea from I Am for I Am. Speaking of which, it is the featured post, and I'm going to go there right now. So this is from Dayrox, a great post. I also shared it on Twitter. I would suggest you do the same. Drakaria did what seemed to be impossible. In the world of computer science, there's no such thing as a random number. We talk about randomness all the time, and it ends up being almost philosophical that everything is deterministic, at least with computers. And there are some interesting things that software does to try to approach randomness, and really it should be called unpredictability in the case that you need a random number. And oftentimes they're used for things like generating a private key, which might really matter for privacy, or might really matter for your Bitcoin wallet. So everything that is digital can be counted. Therefore, everything that is presented as random, just like online casinos, can be decoded by a properly written algorithm. In fact, online casinos, and I guarantee to you some of them do this, that in controlled situations, they have backdoors that they can absolutely make sure that their buddy gets the cards they want. Right? That's how that works. And again, Drakaria and the tech involved there can be used to solve that. Randomness and unpredictability play a big role in games. More than once, you may have been annoyed that the behavior of NPCs in games is very easy to predict. It is precisely the fault that the element of surprise is missing, which is very difficult to simulate. Drakaria has found a solution for this, yes, which can be very easy to apply to many games, real games and applications. They don't have to be Web3 games. They don't have to involve tokens at all. By tapping into the Drakaria blockchain API. This tech is revolutionary. It starts very interestingly with a game with dragons, whose appearance will be determined by the data provided from blockchains such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is just the beginning. Thanks to this technology, it is possible to add more layers of unpredictable events, such as the number of transactions in a given block in real time, weather, sports events, etc., in any number and combination. Not only the appearance of the characters, NFTs will be 100% original. Also, the behavior of the characters would be unpredictable. You've been accustomed that NFT collections is, for example, a cat with a green cap, the same cat with a gold cap, the same cat with a cigar, or glasses. Imagine that, if you get the one with the glasses. Think what unique collections of NFTs you would be able to create on the Drakaria blockchain, which is built on Dragonchain. So totally agree with this. It's a super interesting thing. And that's why, and I'm beginning the blockchain section of the Drakaria white paper, which I wish I should have had that up for you. But one of the big concepts that we're going to introduce is the fact that the blockchain itself is going to pull all of the entropy, because that's what it is, from Bitcoin and Ethereum, and hopefully as many other chains as possible. Also, probably things like weather data, probably weather data on some. And by the way, there are solutions to some of the facts that those are potentially centralized weather data, earthquake data, USGS, and other sources of high entropy. That the likely design would be that much like the way that the egg hatches or begins a hatch on with an Ethereum block, that similarly a very unpredictable state that is the latest Drakaria block is a certain value. Its hash is a certain value, and that the modulus of the let's say the weather data hitting that is going to dictate when we bring in all of that weather data. So it won't just be every time they say, "Oh, here's some new data. I hope that I get a better value on this game or something," that they won't be able to predict that, right? So very interesting stuff, and super powerful. And I will say, I would request, if any of you guys out there, anybody listening, could really delve in there, ask any question you can, bring up any scenario, really try to brainstorm this, because the hardest part about this is getting people to understand why that's important and what's different about it, and how it works if they can, but at least what the result of it working is. Because when you take this into a game studio, for instance, and I've been talking about this since my days at Disney, and before that, it's very frustrating because people just think, oh, I already have random numbers. Why do I need this? And that's the type of world we live in. It's very hard to get people to understand and accept a reasonably abstract idea like that. So it's a very abstract idea. And I think, Dayrox, thank you for spelling it out. This is more of what we need, because it's explaining it in a way that I wouldn't explain it. That is like, oh, this is a very good way to explain it to people. So if you can, do what you can there, and especially ask questions and get involved. Ask questions on, maybe on X with Drakaria World as well, because that'll be a way other people will see it and they'll relate it to, hey, maybe I should, there might be a free egg in this. I need to understand this better. That's by the way, why we are doing that. We really want people to understand it before any of the potential hype. Because I will tell you, when you see the dragons, there's going to be hype. When you see the dragons, there will be hype. And so we want to get this out before that, right? So amazing post there, Dayrox. Thanks a bunch. That was the featured post for today. So featured content. And in closing, so that's everything. Sorry, this is a much longer show than I expected. In closing, make sure you go to Dragonchain.Store, buy a mug. There's the Bitcoin mug from the quote in Open Source Money. Great show. We're on IMDb, if you didn't know that, for Open Source Money. I just saw that the other day. There are Den mugs, a bunch of good stuff, right? DinDAO mugs, Factor mugs. Of course, the crest or the coat of arms. By the way, tell me if anybody thinks we should give an update to that. We've had the second eclipse now. The world is about to explode, and I don't know. There are a lot of things that have developed. We should probably update the coat of arms, right? But JoJo, Lithium's red dragon, freaking amazing. I love that. I have that shirt too. I lost the mug though. Super happy, Dragon Lucky, and the World Blockchain Roundtable mug. Also, if you are able, do please go to the Legal Defense Fund. Things are starting to heat up with the SEC case against us. There are depositions late this month, and I believe next month. I don't know beyond that. And I have no idea some of the other stuff because I'm not a lawyer and I can't pretend to understand. But we do need money for that. And they have, as I didn't know this at the time, but as it is apparently their MO, they have drained us of all available funds. We were building stuff. We had a lot of employees that were being productive and building really good stuff. We have Eternal, we have Den, we have Factor. I'm trying to think all the different things we built. The safe pass, the health pass stuff, and more. Right? There's a lot of stuff that we've built that did take a lot of money, but unfortunately, we built this in the land of the free and the home of the brave, no less, and spent probably more than half of our of all the money that we made in revenue from the sale of the software licenses, fending off the SEC. And I do, as I understand it now, that's I've heard it from multiple lawyers. That is their MO. They drain you of all your money. They get you to the point where you can't afford to feed your family anymore, and then they come after you for real. which is exactly what they did to us. And they continue, right? And so, if you are so kind, you could donate what you can there. If you can't, it's all fine. I still love you. And you can donate, by the way, with a credit card, on a subscription monthly, or with crypto. Any crypto, we will accept any crypto. So, and the lawyers will directly accept any crypto, so we don't have to even convert it or do anything else. So that's all of that. Make sure you watch us again next week. I'd figure out what I'm going to play on the way out here. Same time next week, and make sure you watch the World Blockchain Roundtable today in about 13 minutes. And make sure, I guess, that you follow Dragonchain, Jojo Rowe, and me, Jojo Rowe, and Real Denizens on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Den.Social. I think that's everything. So here, let me see what I'm going to play. Where'd it go? I swear it was here. It was here before, and now it is gone. There it is. Okay, I'm going to play the Den stuff on the way out. Have a good week, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. Adaptable approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.